Hey, and welcome back to the podcast. We are here with Ben Lund from Rise Marketing Group. That is risemkg.com. And Ben is a former Googler, not just someone who uses Google, but who formerly worked at Google. And he decided to start his own marketing agency called Rise Marketing Group, which creates curated programs tailored to drive growth. And so we're going to be talking about 2023 and beyond, what has been excited these days, the benefit of running and growing your own business versus working for a large company like Google. So many things on the map. Ben, how the heck are you?
I'm doing great, Robert. Thanks so much for having me on.
I'm glad to have you. And I when I was in college, I had like pre-FOMO, right? I had all these friends that were moving to Silicon Valley, or maybe they'd start a career like electronic arts or work their way up. Or I have a couple of friends who like ended up from like high school, went to Google. So I had this pre-FOMO of like, do I join a tech company or a startup and like kind of be locked into a career and have that lifestyle, or do the start your own business thing? And I kind of started my own business thing first, and you went into, it sounds like, doing the career first. So, and I was so worried about like getting like locked in and never having the freedom that guys like you and I have now. So I'm curious, like, what's your thoughts on that right off the bat about your journey with kind of shifting gears and all that entails?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I don't think there's definitely not a wrong answer or a wrong path. I mean, you and I are very similar where we had different points, but we both ended in the same spot, right? So no, I loved, I wasn't as career focused in my younger years. I just knew I wanted to get a decent job, work for a decent company, make some money, not get rich, but just make some money and, being able to buy a house. And I never had like crazy career aspirations, but I think getting into the line of work just continued to motivate me. And I got into advertising pretty early. I worked at like monster.com way back in the day when that was a thing. Yahoo, when Yahoo was the Google before Google took over, and then eventually led me to Google. But there's benefits of working for big organizations because I don't have my MBA, but it's almost like an MBA in of itself, where it just teaches you so many fundamentals of business acumen, and which I feel like really helped me. So when I left Google, I had just kind of like this businessy mindset. I wasn't just flying by, just on a whim. And maybe I was a little bit, but all those years, I think, just like really trained me to help when I did take that leap, where no doubt still figuring things out. But it was almost like this MBA that wasn't through an MBA program. If that makes sense.
Yeah, you got like a street smart MBA sort of, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and however you end up there is everyone's own. But I will say, speaking to a lot of folks that have worked in big companies for a while, the longer you stay in those big companies, the harder it is to remove yourself, because these companies are smart. If they see good talent, they're going to keep on throwing carrots your way of like, ooh, but stay 6 months longer, you're going to get this, or stay 2 more years, and then you're going to get this. And then eventually folks' lifestyle and spending just up, and they're like, oh man, if I take the leap, I'm making zero money. How can I make this work? And then it's not for everyone, but then you could settle. And I was definitely in that spot where I'm like, ooh, I should probably make this jump, but oh man, I've stock vested in 3 months or 9 months. Should I do it? Eventually I'm like, if it's your calling for whatever it is in life, just go for it. It will work out.
Well, I love that. And that's reassuring. And it seems like the visual picture I'm getting in my head is it's almost like a chess game, and you have to think a few moves ahead. And it's almost like your company is countering your motivation to lead. They say, well, we know that you're getting to this point in life, we're getting this many years of experience, or like you might have these other opportunities, but we're going to make it, I don't know, like harder to quit seems to be the term, but just like they're trying to rebalance the scales so that way you'll stay. So that's even the way that you describe it, it sounds kind of fun. And it seems like the lesson I'm getting so far is, number one, kind of label things so that way you know what kind of game you're dealing with. kind of like you mentioned earlier about how you got this kind of business experience, and because you picked that up, you were able to kind of like be more organized versus someone that just says, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm going to go out and like pursue my dream. So there's the labeling aspect to know what you're dealing with, but also just kind of like the strategy and playing the game and having fun. So now that you've moved on and you have fun, what have you built post Google and post big business lifestyle?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, well, Rise Marketing Group is the entity that I've built, or we built, because we're a team now. But yeah, start off just, from scratch, just been, bought a computer day one, went to Small Business Expo, trying to drum up some business, just getting the name out there. And we've been growing. I've been so fortunate that we've been growing. We're how many years into this? Maybe 4.5. We have a team of myself plus 10, 7 full-time, 3 part-time. And it's fun. It's at first it's just all advertising, because that's always been my background. So all the Google ads and Facebook ads and LinkedIn, whatever, any platform you can place an ad, we could do a honorable job. But then we've expanded services to include email and social and SEO, just because clients need it. And over a long time, I kept on referring out. I'm like, oh, you should really do SEO. They're like, do you do SEO? I'm like, not at this point, but talk to so-and-so, because you should really do SEO. And then eventually I kept on referring clients off. I'm like, why don't we do this? I'm like, we can do this. And then so we added more services just to help grow clients. But that, to answer your question, that's been the core focus. But it's fun. I love being an entrepreneur. You have so much more flexibility. You're super nimble. If you want to do something, you just do it. You don't have to run it by committees and things like that. So yeah.
Well, cool. So you're having all this fun and you're expanding, and I'm sure that you have some of these interesting stories, right? Because what's cool about like you being an agency and having these clients and solving these problems is that you can sometimes jump into these fun niches that you like guys like you and I like normally would never have heard of, but because you found them as a client, they're often some weird space. And sometimes you can find kind of the untapped gold out there and say, oh, let's do this with the advertising, or let's do this with the email marketing. So do any fun success stories, case studies like that for you come to mind, as far as just like a cool story that shows the skill and the results that your company provides?
Yeah. And we're just getting into doing some great case studies. I mean, a couple things. One thing I'll point out, which is pretty universal now in agency land, is Google is great at innovating, and obviously I have some bias for that, but I would say more so than other ad platforms of their innovation. And one thing that they've done is innovated towards PMax. So for anyone who's listening, that's Performance Max, and that is a very much algorithmically run campaign where you say, hey Google, this is my goal. I want leads, I want transactions, and here are a bunch of assets. So I'm going to give you headlines, descriptions, video, all these other types of assets, and then you let the machine run. But you can't just let it run. You have to just kind of send in these different signals to kind of help the AI and the machine learning learn that much faster. So when Google rolled this out earlier this year, 2022, at the time of recording, I was just like a little skeptical. I'm like, I don't know, but pleasantly surprised for e-commerce and even lead gen. But that's just something that you just kind of jump right in, you try to figure it out. And actually, there's one case study on our site for an outdoor e-commerce brand that it just took off. PMax did really well. We also had some business tailwinds at our back, which was helpful. But that's just a good example. But there's other, even outside of advertising and SEO, you get creative, you try one thing and you see it work really well. You're like, ooh, I think we're onto something. Let's get our other clients to do this. And so.
And apply it all across the board.
Yeah. And it's all about just like testing and iterations. And I'm sure you could probably say the same thing, is one of the most fun things about digital marketing is it's always changing, and it's so easy to test and try new things, and the data is going to let you know if it's working or not. And when you find one or two things that just works really well, or if you catch in before the greater industry does, like that's great. That's yeah, then you have a nice long runway of like, okay, this is gonna be good.
Yeah, like you're reminding me that there was maybe like a year or so ago, one of my employees was saying that we had this one client that was asking about us posting on Pinterest and TikTok. And then they said, like, just roll it out for everybody. So sometimes you just have like, you find the one experiment or the one idea, and you just say, I've applied it over on this column, and we apply it down on all the rows, to use a kind of a weird imagination kind of trick. And so, you're from Google, and my brain just always digs into like, I'm like, oh yeah, Google invented that. Google invented that. Like whenever I think about a web page, right? And I think about adding more things to their web page, I think, hey, the front page of Google, they were one of the first to say like, it's just a plain white page. And you hear different stories. You hear so many little stories about Google, like the whole, I guess everyone can do like a side project on Fridays, or you hear about different things like, at one point, they split test like 55 shades of blue to get the exact one. Or every time you log into Google Ads, like every couple months, the whole interface has changed because there's always like iterating. So does anything like that come to mind as far as like big picture life or business lessons from Google? Because like, I don't even know where to begin or end as far as all the little tidbits over the years. I've heard about the cool things they've done. So like, do you have any cool, like not talked enough about things that Google's done?
Oh man, I mean, Google's done so many great things, but it's all everything that they do, all founded backed by data. Like Google and the leadership team and folks that work for are insanely smart. And it's all backed by data. So like how you just referenced that 50 Shades of Blue or whatever that was test, like that was pretty smart. They probably just did tons of testing, exposed to so many thousands, millions of users to figure out what's the right one. And even like their homepage, I mean, I worked at Yahoo a long time ago, and that homepage of Yahoo was a little bit different than Google, where you had all the bells and whistles and your horoscopes and your mail and weather and everything. But that was the internet at that point. That was just a portal where people weren't searching as much. But yeah, no, Google was a great place to work. They valued employees, and as you mentioned, allowed employees to do 20% projects. And one of the things that I did like about Google is they did, getting back to employee attrition, or excuse me, retention, trying to make employees stay. They would rather have an employee stay, even if they weren't satisfied in their job, but to move them to a different role so they maintain them. So Ben Lind at Google, if I wasn't happy, I'm like, I really don't like this. I could have a conversation with, let's say, my director or manager and say, I don't want to do ads anymore. I really want to get into cloud. I want to do this. They'd be like, okay, you should talk to so and so and so. And that was the culture where they didn't want to lose good talent. So even if it meant moving to a different line of business, they were okay with that. And I thought that was really cool, because in prior careers or companies that I worked for, I would not feel comfortable approaching a boss of like, not really feeling this job, but I really want to work for that team, because then you're like, oh, I'm probably gonna get canned. So that was another instance, which I think is very applicable to entrepreneurship too, and what you do and what we do over here. If someone's on our teams like, Ben, I've been doing email marketing, but I kind of want to get into social. Cool, let's test that out and let's pivot things around a little bit.
Yeah, and you're basing it on data, and you're reminding me of, my mind was blown with the E-Myth when they talked about making an org chart, and they said to like take different index cards and write different titles, and you yourself might have 8 of those index cards, and someone else might have 5 of them. But then that whole idea of that one person, it's not a one-to-one relationship, right? It's not like one person has the one job with all the subtasks. There's all these tasks, and one person might swip and swap the different things that they do. And I've taken that to heart. And like, I have some overseas employees, and sometimes we'll say maybe they'll do less of tasks 1 and 2 because they're more interested in doing 3. And we might just make it where they were doing 20% of this, and now they'll do 80% of it, just to kind of rearrange things. And it seems to be more of a like modern day future based thinking, where in the present day, you might move around in your career, right? You might try to, like, you might work for Google and work for Yahoo, but then strike out on your own. Like, these things are fluid, versus the old timey way of thinking is you were the chimney sweep, and that's what you grew up to learn, and that's all you were going to do, and you were like stuck in there. But this seems more fluid and dynamic. And so what sorts of things can we take away from you as far as things to apply to our own businesses, right? You've seen all these landing pages, websites, ads, and I'm sure that there are some things that drive you crazy that are not done enough. So what's the low-hanging fruit these days? What are we all not doing in our websites and businesses that we should be doing?
Yeah, and first, just to piggyback on your comment, like on the note cards and everything, yes, got to be fluid, because the world is fluid. The world is dynamic, nothing static. And if you try to create a static environment in a very fluid, dynamic world, like, it's just going to be, it just won't work. So that's a great tip for entrepreneurship, or frankly, anyone, personal and professional. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. It's a good reminder to myself. Tips, I mean, it really varies based off of business as well as how savvy they are. So, just a couple like easy peasy things that I will just say for anyone who's listening, that's maybe a small business or a startup, that it can be very confusing of what to do, because you can get sidetracked. You can be like, okay, I have my business, or I have my coffee shop, or whatever it might be. And then it's like, oh, someone's telling me to do TikTok, I got to do TikTok. Oh, someone's telling me to pin stuff, I got to pin stuff. Oh, someone's telling me to do email. And then before you know it, they're like, well, shoot, I actually have to run a business, and I can't spend 40 hours a week doing all these crazy channels. What do I do? So a couple things I would just say, if at all helpful for at least this client set, and if there's another or user set, is just, bring it down to the basics. Make sure you have a great website. Like, sometimes I still run across businesses that don't have a site, they have a Facebook page. And I'm like, come on, you got to have a site. Or they'll have a site that's just like super dated. I'm like, your site is your storefront. So years ago, downtown, whatever town that you're walking in, you'd have a beautiful storefront, and that's how you attract customers. And that's your website. You have to invest in a good website. And then make sure you do email marketing, low-hanging fruit. Everyone can get an email list from past customers or people who walk into a brick and mortar store, or you have some type of pop-up on your website. But then just continue to invest in your website, whether it be through ads or SEO, because that website is going to turn into an asset for your business. I know a lot of people think of like, oh, this is going to be an expense for me, is building this website. And then they just check the box like, yep, website built. But it's like, but don't you want to make this into an asset and continue to add to it, and it builds up ranking on Google? And then before you know it, you're actually getting customers and leads from this every month and every quarter. And wouldn't that be a great thing? So invest in your website is, I would say, number one. And then from that core website, then you can have these little offshoots of other channels to bring in traffic to it. Sorry, I hope I wasn't rambling there.
Not at all. This is all great to think about. It's that that asset of like virtual real estate almost, where you think of that storefront on Main Street. Your website's a digital version of that, which at first glance seems like a obvious or hokey thing to say, but if you think about it, it's like, well, you need to kind of do a little bit of upkeep, right? It can't be like run down and have a broken window sitting there to keep the cheesiness going. But like sometimes you deal with these people that they do treat their web properties as kind of like a digital real estate, and they'll buy some website for like 50 grand and build it up to like 500 grand. And if we only treat it like the businesses we built from the ground up like that, right? Because it's easy to say like, oh, I just click some buttons, I just use some templates, some platforms, but it's like that has some sort of a value, but that also entails to take it seriously and not let it get run down, and go back. And if it needs updating, if it's not mobile responsive, if it's not on SSL, if there's all those things that were nice to have 10 years ago, but are essential now, privacy policy, page load time, all the things that the Google gods want us to have, why not just keep that up and running and keep that functional, because that's where the money comes from, right? That's where our lifeblood is.
Yeah, and if there's any business owners that are out there like, great, Robert, Ben, that sounds good, but I don't have the time for it. If you don't have time, that's fine. Hire someone. Hire someone, and then they're gonna take care of that for you. Obviously, go through the vetting process to make sure it's legit agency, but you have to do that. And a good what you could, or anyone who's listening could just also look at their competitors' websites. How are their websites? Do you want to be below their websites? Are you below their websites? Are you average? You don't want to be average. You don't want to just kind of keep up. You want to be better than them. So use them, your competitive set as a benchmark, and be like, okay, well, we offer a better product and service, so our website should show that as well. And we're the same way on our site. I share this with our team. We frequently make updates and blogs and things like that. But even to this day, I'm like, I feel like our level of service is up here, but our website prior, it was down here. Now it's better, it's here, but still not representative of the true service that we provide. So always make sure your website matches the level of the products or services that you provide.
And Ben, you said that I was giving you reminders. Now you're giving me reminders that I need to go and go do some Google searches and see where I stack up, and then look at my neighbors on Google and see what it is on their websites that I like that I don't have, even if it's painful, even if it's easy to forget to do that for 6 or 12 months. Maybe we should all take that advice, and maybe as like a recurring exercise, check the Google ranking, see what the other ads are, see what the other websites are, and see how we rank, right? Are we behind? Or are there things we need to absorb or innovate to? And so if someone is listening to this conversation here, Ben, are they getting excited about what we're talking about? How do they know if their company is an ideal fit for you? And if they are an ideal fit, then what's the next step for them? Where's the website? What do they do on your website?
Yeah, so we work with a variety of companies. We work with small business, we work with e-commerce, we work with education, we work with lead gen. So we have all these different verticals that we work in, but the common thread that is going to be a determination if it's going to be a good fit or not is, one, you need to have some level of marketing budget. This isn't like a DIY shop. Two, you need to we would require that be a real viable business. And I say this because sometimes we work with startups that's like, oh, Ben, I have this great idea. It's going to be amazing. We're going to sell 1 million of this, and it's awesome. And you can get caught up in it and be like, okay, yeah, cool, I could see it. And then their business just doesn't work. And then you're spinning your wheels on trying to pull a rabbit out of a hat from marketing to have marketing just like lift their business. So we really avoid working with true startups that haven't sold one product. You need to have some type of revenue. You need to have a viable product or service. There are agencies that specialize in startups, and the only exception we make for startups is if they have financial backing and we trust the leadership team. But really, it comes down to, if you have a good business and you're making money and you just want to boost your presence online and get some inbound leads, we can support with that. And how to find us is just Google Rise Marketing Group or risemkg.com. And my name is Ben Lund. I'm the founder of it, and we can have a conversation. And this usually starts off with, we just have a free consultation, like, all right, what are you looking to achieve? Okay, what have you been doing in the past? Let's take a peek. And then from that, we can really assess of, okay, what's the true opportunity for this business?
Well, fantastic. And you've given me so many ideas, and I'm sure like the listeners have many ideas as well. And we live in the day and age of Google and YouTube, where all the information is out there. But you and I both know, Ben, that there's so many things that we know we should be doing, and you can easily Google and find the answer, but then why haven't you taken action on it, right? And maybe it's running those ads or optimizing that landing page or doing the email marketing. We can always find the information. We can always do the learning. But if you business owner out there have been blocked for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, and you could Google the answer, you could YouTube the answer, but you're still not just taking action, you're still not getting results, maybe that's a sign. that you can't do everything yourself, that you can't DIY it, that you need to have that conversation with Ben and his team to actually get it done, because the information is one thing, but you can drown in information versus getting it done and making money and doing that proof of concept that Ben talked about, getting some sales and then multiplying it with your paid ads. This is something that you need to do. And if you procrastinate on it, then you're running out of time, it won't get done. So the time is of the essence. And it's worth having that conversation with Ben and his team, risemkg.com. And what was the magic phrase to Google, Ben? Was it Rise Marketing Group on Google?
Yeah, Rise Marketing Group. Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So
that way we train the Google algorithm, right? So that way this search phrase equals a fast click over to the web page with some dwell time. So that way you really boost in the rank and you work that algorithm, right?
Yeah, that's right. You got it.
Well, fantastic. Well, we'll see you over at risemkg.com. And thank you, Ben, for sharing some super cool advice with us. I appreciate it.
Hey, likewise. Thanks so much, Robert. Appreciate it.